Now you might think I'm in here to avoid the allergies, to be in a dust-free environment. Wrong! I'm Fred Trost from the Practical Sportsman, and we are going to show you how to build this ice fishing shanty. The great thing about it is only costs 35 bucks. Hey, stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. You're watching the Practical Sportsman.
So the question is it possible to build an ice fishing shanty for under 50 bucks? Well, you bet it is. Joseph Thompson from Royal Oak. And if you look in the Practical Sportsman section, you'll find what he did is he used plywood, 4x8 sheets of plywood. We're going to use chipboard because we're going to save a few bucks that way. We're also going to need some 2x2s and some fairing strips. And in order to make the covering for it, you could use a camper-style type of a tarp used for camping. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a heavy plastic sheeting. It's about 4 mil, which should do the job for us. Now, for the hinges, you're going to need some hinges for the doorway, and the duct tape, well, we'll show you what that's going to be for. But first, let's get started and cut off a little bit of the top for the door. Taking a look at Joseph Thompson's shanty, you'll notice that the roof is rounded at the top. Well, we like that idea because we think it takes up less space in the back of the truck, and it reduces the overall weight. But now how do you make sure that when you make your cuts, you take the same amount of wood off both sides? Well, on our 4x6 piece of chipboard, you want to measure in 2 feet from the side of the board and then measure 2 feet down from the top. With a felt marker attached to a 2-foot piece of string, draw a semicircle around the top of the board. This is what's going to be the front of our shanty right here. I just finished cutting out the door. We use the saber saw to also cut out the radius for the top of the shanty. Now, one tip about the door. You can really make the door any size you want to. But remember, it's wintertime, and you're going to have all your winter clothes on, so make sure that you make it big enough. It's finally starting to look like something. Now, what we're doing, we went ahead and we put in the 2x2 side supports just temporarily so we could put on the plastic on the outside. I used a utility knife to cut off all the excess plastic here, but I'm a little concerned that this plastic might tear. So what we're going to do is use a piece of duct tape on here, and if you look very closely at this, you can see it's got webbing throughout it. Now hopefully that'll, when we staple through this layer, that'll keep the plastic from tearing. Inside our shanty here, this pole in the center is temporarily screwed in the sides just to keep it so we could put the plastic on the top. But ultimately what we want to do is to be able to collapse this whole thing down and put it in the back of a truck. So we cut out these V's, and what will happen is once this temporary screw is removed, that'll simply slide right down into place. Well, putting the door on was a piece of cake because we'd already cut it out earlier. All I needed to do was to put a couple of pin hinges in there. And the door handle is just rope with a knot tied in it. Matt Radzilowski had a good idea. He thought about putting these door stops in here because if you don't, when you close the door, you could break off your hinges. Well, we tried to make this whole thing as light as possible, but we're still going to need a little help getting it across the ice. So we'll put this tow bar in here, and all we have to do is to put a rope in here to pull and finish up putting in the skis, and we'll be all ready to go ice fishing. Well, Matt Radzilowski, you get a big assist here for finishing the skis for me.
Well, I don't know if I want to take credit for the skis, John, after the way they performed. Basically, I just made those out of some scrap wood we had laying around the workshop. But if I was to do it again, I'd go to the garage sale and see if I can't find some budget skis.
Yeah, that actually is a good idea because on a day like today when the sun's real beating down on the ice and it's real hard packed, it's not bad at all. But if you were to get
any accumulation of snow on that ice, boy, you got a workout ahead of you.
Exactly. Yeah, it was about 30 degrees. It was a gorgeous day out on Park Lake here. Yep, it was perfect.
We probably didn't need a shanty, but the winds picked up later on in the day, and it was kind of nice to have.
Yeah, now it's probably, would you say this is a two-man job or what?
It is a two-man job. One man could probably do it. Now, you don't have to make it as long as we did. If you were to shorten up the overall length, it's a lot easier for one man to put it together.
Right. Now, one of the things I do like is we use the plastic sheeting, which is attached to the frame. Now, that's not going to blow in a heavy wind. That will not blow around the lake like, maybe some of the other models.
Right. No, that kind of keeps it tied together a lot nicer and makes assembly real easy.
Now, whose idea was this? Was this yours or Joseph's?
No, those are the V-notches there. That's what I came up with. It kind of makes a nice way to locking the shanty together and makes it very portable.
All set. Ready to go. Now, we don't have a floor in our ice fishing shelter, but do you think we should go ahead and drill our holes first?
Oh, definitely. Drill your holes first and then pull your shanty on top of the holes. You don't want to take a chance of maybe poking the auger through the side of the shanty, or else having your hand slip off and punching it through that way.
Well, even if it did, it would only cost us about $6. In fact, that's why we went with the clear plastic sheeting instead of the heavy blue tarp, because that was about $24, and we wanted to save some money.
Yeah, not only that, it has a lot of advantages, too. Not only letting the sun's warmth come in, but as far as us videotaping, it's really a big plus. In the dark shade, it's hard to find your gear. This is going to help you find your gear and even help you bait your hook a little easier.
Yeah, not only that, but it's a heck of a lot easier to see what's going on and to see your spring bobber, for one thing. Here, you got that? See him?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. Not too bad.
A little small for a keeper.
A little small, but I think maybe we'll put him back.
How do you like the shanty?
It's not bad. I kind of feel like I live in a greenhouse.
Well, nice and warm, though, eh?
It stays really, really warm in here. It's great. Put him back. Now, the fishing wasn't exactly fantastic, Matt, but I like the clear sides on the shanty.
One benefit of that is you could keep your eye on your tip up and also see what the other fishermen are doing as well.
That's right. Another benefit maybe for people, a family, for example, that doesn't fish a whole lot, doesn't want to sink a couple $100s into an ice fishing shanty. For $35, you can have yourself a fantastic shanty, and I think we have to give it 2 thumbs up.
The team effort with Matt Radzilowski on the plans
Yep.
and helping you in the workshop.
So what'd you think?
I thought that was pretty cool.
Worked out good.
I don't know what line of work you're going to go into.
We did.
I just can't tell. You're taking over everybody's jobs
That's
anymore.
not true. Well, we use clear. In the picture here, it's got a dark, a solid colored tarp.
Yeah, Joe Thompson from Royal Oak made this with the traditional type of tarp, but you try the clear, and there's pros and cons. We'll see how that works out. Sheila is from Middleville and Gun Lake in Berry County. Whoa, this must have popped people's eyes out when you came to shore with this.
Actually, no, unfortunately, there wasn't anybody there at the time.
Oh,
you know, when you catch the big ones, nobody's ever around.
Okay, hold it.
Except my husband, which is my tip, okay? You always go fishing with your honey.
Okay, now how does your husband fit into this? Just a joke, just a joke.
No, it's
I mean nothing by it, just for laughs.
Okay, I always go fishing with him. In fact, I make him nervous in his shanty, so he built me my own shanty, okay? So this one came in, and when I saw it, it was on the outside of my hole on the left side, and it was not a good spot to spear, and my husband also taught me how to spear, so you don't just throw.
And what is that technique? Why don't you share that?
Okay, you put the spear all the way into the water before you heave it. Okay, make sure you have a good shot. However, it was on the outside of my hole, looking at my 13.5-inch sucker. And I was waiting for it to come in, and it didn't come in. So I finally thought, well, nobody's going to believe how big this is, so might as well take a shot at it. And I did. I got it. I knew I didn't have it speared good. Opened my shanty door and yelled out, "Larry, come over!" And he did, and swam out of my hole 3 times with my spear and all the rope, and pulled him back in. And I told my husband, "Go get your spear, it's not speared well." He says, "Well, let me see how big it is." And when he saw how big it was, he said, "I don't want to throw my spear down there and knock yours out, then we'll never get it." And I said, "How are we going to get it up?" And he says, "Well, you just pull it up and I'll grab it by the gills." Of course, I said, "That's never going to work." And I did it, and he reached down, grabbed it, pulled it right up, because I couldn't have done it myself.
Man, that's something else. Well, you know, you just don't see muskies like this every time you go out and sit in the shanty.
No.
Do you?
No.
Or do you see a lot of them?
I got a 44-inch one this year on Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
And right off the beach where people swim. So, but you do have to sit there a long time.
Well, that's great. What an outstanding story. 34 pounds, 12 ounces, 49-incher, and already this season you got a 44-incher.
Mm-hmm.
That's something else. Well, give your honey my regards.
I will.
I might want